Hey guys, welcome back. I am Emily, and this is my podcast, A Rambling Yarn. If you have just stumbled on my little tiny podcast corner of YouTube, welcome. I'm excited to have you. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Glad you're here. It's been a while, as per usual. The last time that I did an episode, I was somewhere around 30 weeks pregnant. I am no longer pregnant, and now I have a 1-month-old little tiny newborn who is just darling, and she's lovely. And because of that, I have some really cute little baby makes to show you in today's episode. Along with the little tiny clothes, I also have a couple of work in progresses to show you, and I'm trying to think of what else is going on. Baby brain is real, and hopefully you won't be distracted by the very tired bags that are hanging out under my eyes, because those are also a real thing right now. Grab a cozy cup of something and a project to work on and hang out with me for the next 30 minutes or so and get some stuff done and relax. So this is the first baby knit that I'm going to show you, which has been worn. It's in desperate need of a bath. I never even blocked it. It was so cute that I just tossed it right on her. And I love it. So it's covered in some spit up and baby gunk because it's made for a baby. This is the Raindrop sweater by Tin Can Knits. I made it. It's a fingering weight yarn. I used Stroll from Knit Picks in this kind of heathered purple. And it has just this really cute little eyelet design on the yoke. It's a circular yoke sweater. And it definitely needs a bath, but it's so cute, and it's just so small. I can't handle it. I have not really made much myself. So this, I did make this. This is the only thing so far that I have made, apart from a hat. I made the Beloved, I don't know if it's just simply called the Beloved or the Beloved bonnet, but that is also, it's a cute little hat pattern with tassels, or not tassels, but it's got little eye cords and ear flaps, and that was also a pattern by Tin Can Knits, which I want to say is free. If it's not free, it's like $5. It's, one of their classic patterns, and as always has every size that you could need or want to knit. And I'm not sure if that one is for a specific yarn weight or not, but easy enough to get around. I think I'm pretty sure I've shown it in past episodes, but I used a DK weight yarn for my bonnet, which I should find because it is now cold. The next couple of little baby knits were made for me by my dearest fiberiest friend Bella over at Fiber and Fox. She didn't have to, but she went all out, and I will have to ask her pattern names and all of that, and I'll put them on here for everybody. But look at this! Look at the ruffles! Look at the buttons! She collects buttons, I'm pretty sure. Like, she has a massive stash of buttons, And it's always really fun to see because a lot of times, like they're not technically matching sets, but they have this lovely kind of antique way of looking like they all belong together even though they're not the same, which I personally adore. I love that eclectic feel. It's just makes it so unique. Look guys, look at the ruffles. Seriously. And the pink, and it's just sorry, it's just so cute. I can't handle it. This is my third baby and it's my first baby girl, and there's nothing wrong with little baby boy clothes. They are also super adorable, whether they're store-bought or you're making them, but it's a different kind of cute than little tiny itty-bitty baby girl clothes. So I am just kind of, I'm still over the moon of gushing cuteness. Sorry. But yeah, it's so small. I can't get over still how small her clothes are. And it's not like this is the first time that I've had small baby clothes in my house. It's been almost 5 years at this point. So it feels new all over again. I think this is still a little too big for her, but again, with the buttons, look at the buttons. Oh man, they're so cute. I believe she mentions these patterns from these particular recent makes that she's done, but also like if you go back in Bella's podcast episode library there, back when she first had her daughter, she made a whole bunch of these, and I'm pretty sure has made them since for other people, and she talks about these patterns as well. Bella is a crochet designer, and you can find her patterns on Etsy and I believe on Ravelry if you look for at Fiber and Fox. Also check out her Instagram. She is wonderful, and we have known each other since, I don't know, like the first grade or something crazy like that. Like we go way back. So these are very special to me simply because of the love that was put into them. This I think was made with, it's not wool, definitely not wool. It feels kind of like a cotton or bamboo or viscous sort of material. It's very, very soft. It's nice and heavy. I like heavy duty. Oh my goodness. Again, the ruffles. So many ruffles. But it's adorable. It looks pretty simple. I'll probably have to make one of these too. And then the last little baby thing that I have is this cute little like flower crown headband. And Bella made this with all sorts of like little scraps from this and that, which is absolutely, like, it's so perfect. That is a perfect project to incorporate things like that in. And then you kind of actually have a little bit of a memento because you can see all the different projects that you've worked on. And it's so cute. I feel like I need a giant, I should make myself a giant one. And I can't wait. My daughter has a small head, according to the doctors. So it'll be a little while before any of the typical bows and headbands and things like that actually fit her cute tiny little head, which is killing me because I just want to put her in all of the cute bows and headbands. Oh well. So here's a half-finished object. I haven't had one of these in a while, and I actually kind of forgot that I was making these. But as I was going through project bags and stash, trying to figure out what do I have, what do I have? Anyways, I found these mittens that I had actually started making last year. And so I finished this one last year. This is made out of a mohair and a single ply held together. And both of these were dyed by an artist in Connecticut. I believe her business is called Dragonfly. Yes, Dragonfly. I don't know if she's still going. I haven't checked in recently on any of her stuff. I should probably do that, but I will put her information. So that's what I'm working with for these. And I got the first mitten made last year. I was on a mitten streak, and then I'm not sure why, but it got put down and then it didn't get picked back up again. And I started thinking about how I should finish those, mostly because, one, I found them. Two, we finally have had a few days where in the morning when I'm taking my son to school, I've gotten out of the car and been like, oh no, like it's been like in the 20s. And first thing in the morning, if I have to get out of the car, because we've got a gate where we live that has to be opened and closed, it's just being outside for like 10-15 seconds is cold. It's super cold. So figured I should finish those mittens. And then on top of that, not exactly related, but it kind of felt a little bit like a kick in the pants. Over at Wool Needles Hands, the podcast Wool Needles Hands, which is produced by Taylor Earl, who owns the Fiber for the People yarn company. She's my favorite yarn dyer of all time, basically. But she is hosting a really impromptu knit along, which is due to finish up in just a couple of days, which will be probably before you see this podcast, given my track record of getting things out there in a timely manner. But she is hosting an impromptu knit along to knit a pair of socks by Christmas. Yeah, which is awesome. So I didn't have time, I probably did have time, maybe, to get a pair of socks on the needles and finished by Christmas. Socks really do not take that long if you actually devote your time to that. But I didn't feel like I should do that because I know that I have other things. I should probably put something down. I'm just waving everything around here. I have other things that need to be finished, like this pair of mittens. So rather than jump on sorry, I'm also getting over the last of the latest cold that my kid has brought home from kindergarten. Thanks, man. Rather than put a new whip on my needles, I figured I should finish the one that I started a year ago. So this pattern, in case I didn't say it already while I was rambling, there's a reason why I call this a rambling yarn. The World's Simplest Mittens, also by Tin Can Knits. So if you are looking for a simple mitten pattern, it's extremely straightforward, very beginner friendly, and if you are into modifications, probably very easily modified. I'm actually planning on making my mother a set of mittens using this pattern, and possibly adding a like a cable or something up the back of the hand for her, just to give her, you know, something a little fancier than just vanilla mittens. So go check those out if you are in the neighborhood as far as needing a mitten pattern. These are also housed in this really delightful little project bag that my neighbor sewed for me for my birthday. It's got birds. Just look at that. She sews for herself for enjoyment. She also made me a little tiny baby quilt for my newborn, which is Harry Potter themed, because she knows that I love Harry Potter and she also loves Harry Potter, and it's just so sweet, and I feel very touched because she doesn't do it as her job. This is for her own pleasure and enjoyment, just like for me, knitting and crochet and my crafting with fibers is mostly just for me. So I was very touched, and it's very special, and it's adorable. It is so cute. It's delightful. It's a chai tea sort of day. And my husband brought this up for me, pardon the lipstick, in my mom mug, which was very sweet of him. I am also wearing, this is the first sweater that I ever knit. And this is, oh my gosh, this episode brought to you by Tin Can Knits. This is the Flax sweater by Tin Can Knits. And I made this out of just some really yarn bee basic acrylic yarn from Hobby Lobby. And I also didn't realize it at the time when I was buying the yarn that it is kind of low-key Gryffindor colors, which is, don't laugh, that is my Harry Potter house. I made this this was back before the world shut down and then reopened and shut down and reopened again. I want to say probably in 2019. I think possibly 2018. So it's seen a few years. It has gone through the washer and the dryer many times, and will continue to do that because it is acrylic yarn, and I don't use acrylic very often anymore. Not for any yarn snob reasons, just because if I'm making something for me, I just typically lean towards wool, which is also great. However, it is really nice to have a sweater. If I had to do it again, I would do it all the same. It's nice to have one that I can just kind of be rough in. I don't have to worry about anything. And yeah, if it gets dirty, which a lot of my clothes do at this point in time with a newborn and small kids, and it's winter and it's gross and I'm hot, but I'm cold, and it's all of that. It's nice to be able to just tug this off and toss it in the washing machine and not have to worry about anything. It's definitely one of my go-tos, workhorse of a sweater, and I love it. 100% would recommend this as a beginner pattern, or just you've got that itch to throw a sweater pattern, a sweater on your needles and just make yourself a garment. Do this. Could be modified to not have the sleeve detail. Absolutely not that that's hard or very much, because the panel is, it's like 4 inches, 5 inches wide. So easily modified, very basic. Tin Can Knits Flax. Yep, the Flax sweater. I think it also comes in it's my 4-year-old. Ooh. I think it also comes in a light version. This is the worsted weight version of the pattern, and the light one I would assume is probably fingering weight, maybe sport, if that is more up your alley. The worsted is a free pattern. The light may not be, but I'm not 100% sure. If you have a preference over one or the other, you have options. Speaking of having an itch to throw a sweater on your needles, that was me. It's me. I had that itch. I had it way back, probably in the fall when the weather was starting. I had yet to knit or start a sweater this year. I have in the past couple of years, basically since I knit this, I've had at least one sweater. This one took me almost a year, maybe a little over a year to knit. I just was really slow at knitting this for whatever reason. Chalk it up to experience of knitting sweaters or time on my hands that I just maybe didn't have. But I knit this one, and then since then I basically have had a sweater, at least one, on my needles every single year. So it feels good. They're probably one of my favorite things to make for both the process and the product, and I love it. And I had yet to do that or even start this year until now. So as I mentioned, the Wool Needles Hands podcast, Taylor has mentioned the Felix sweater in past episodes and like years ago. It's a pattern that has been around for quite a while. It's been one that's in my queue on Ravelry for who knows how long, because it's got a really lovely detail. It's a raglan, really lovely raglan detail. It's very simple, and everything that I've heard about it, it works up really quick. Why it's one that I haven't done before or yet, I'm not really sure, except that it is a heavier weight. I think it's more of an Aran weight pattern. And lately I've been doing a lot of more lighter weight work with fingering weight or DK, a lot of fingering weight sweaters and socks and all of that. So it's been a while since I've picked up a worsted or Aran weight yarn and done anything with that. Rewind to October, maybe around the middle of October, and Taylor had casted on her own Felix sweater and then decided that she was going to do another somewhat impromptu knit along that she called the Felix For Fall knit along. That was going to run from, again, middle or late October, I want to say, to like mid-December. It ended, I think, on the 10th. That gave me a very perfect excuse to go ahead and cast on my own Felix pullover. The Felix comes, there's two different patterns. You can knit a pullover version or else a cardigan. I didn't really feel like working anything flat. I wanted to work in the round, so I went with the pullover version. This pattern is put out by Savory Knitting. And again, it calls for an Aran weight. I used it as an excuse to buy new pretty yarn, and I purchased the worsted weight from Taylor in one of her updates. I got it in the colorway Custard Punch, which is a combination of some really pretty and warm browns and beige and purples. It's kind of a purpley pink. Yeah. I don't know. When she originally released this colorway, I immediately wanted to knit a sweater out of it. And her shop update that included these was right around the time that the knit along was announced to start. So I was like, hey, these things in my head are going hand in hand. We're just gonna go with that. So I am holding this, the Custard Punch, double with mohair, which is on the floor. Give me a second. I am holding it double with mohair. This is the colorway Rose Clay. And this is from Knitting for Olive. So this is kind of a warm neutral. It's a little more pink than what is showing up on camera, but you get the idea. And they're working really well together. And it is working up really quick. I started this more so in the beginning of November because pregnancy. And then I had to put it down because I had a baby. And I've picked it back up because I'm really enjoying working on this. And so does it matter to me that I started it after the knit along and the knit along is now over and I'm still going and am not going to be entered for any sort of prize? No, because again, it really just was an excuse to put a sweater on my needles. Anyways, it's got a lovely halo. You can see the raglan detail here. I'm knitting I think this is like the 3rd size. I don't know if this would be considered a medium or a large. I don't know if it starts as like an extra small or a small in the pattern. But I decided to go for one that has a little bit more positive ease than probably I usually would knit, because I just really want something large and comfy right now. And it's so soft. The mohair, I've been really into mohair lately. Actually, I guess I've got 3 things going right now. I've got this, which is mohair held double with something. The Mittens mohair held with the singles, and I'm not going to show it today because I have made no progress since the last time I showed it, but I'm working on the Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mowry, which also I am knitting with a single merino single and mohair. I've never worked with mohair before this past year, so I guess I'm just in a mohair mood. And this probably won't take very long. I think once you separate the sleeves and the body, I think if you're knitting it to pattern without modifying anything, you are only supposed to knit, I think, 9 inches from the underarm, which is not a whole lot in my opinion. So we'll see if I want 9 inches or a little bit more. I have a very short torso, so I'm imagining 9 inches is probably fine, plus the ribbing at the bottom. And then it's sleeves onto Sleeve Island. So we'll keep you updated. Maybe by the next episode, this will be off my needles and on my torso, and I will be cozy and sweaty, and it will be great. Oh, and here's like a life hack, yarn hack. I don't know where these particular, what is going on? These things, I'm not going to try to say that word again. I don't know where these things came from. I think my husband found them on his boat. Who knows what they had been used for, but you can find very similar things. Sometimes they're wrapped around like avocados, And it's kind of just like this mesh, this stretchy plastic mesh stuff. And right now I am alternating skeins for this sweater. And so I constantly have 3 cakes that are just kind of all being twisted up, and especially when I'm done and I toss it in my project bag. And I found this and was like, hey, you know, you could very easily put yarn in here, put a cake of yarn in there. It's squeezed together. It's not gonna really unravel. So yeah, if you come across anything kind of like this at your grocery store around a piece of fruit, you don't have to throw it away. You can put it on a cake of yarn, and it'll save you. I know you can also buy similar products that are like sewn or use other things, I guess, but just saying, just throwing that out there. That's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing I am doing. Last little tiny project that I am doing, I don't know why I felt the need to, but all of a sudden, again, I had the itch. I am attempting a hat, probably because I've been seeing kids walking around with really fun hats when I go to pick my son up from school. And I figured maybe he should have a hand knit hat. I don't know, he's starting to ask for some things. And this actually was somewhat selfish because it gives me an excuse again to have something on my needles and learn a stitch that I've never really done before. So I looked up a 2-color brioche tutorial, which Andrea Mowry, if you are familiar with any of her patterns, especially her shawl patterns, that woman loves brioche and puts it in basically everything. Also, I really love that there is a knitting technique called brioche because it just makes me think of really squishy, pillowy, delicious bread, and I am a fan of that. And so, yeah. And yeah, Andrea Mowry has quite a few tutorials. Speaking of bread, I think my husband is baking bread downstairs. Quite a few tutorials for brioche, including 2-color brioche. And I know she has hat patterns that she sells that are both 1 and 2-color brioche, and they are beautiful and they are amazing. And if you are looking for an actual pattern and not trying to fly by the seat of your pants when you don't really know what you're doing, please go check that out, because I don't have a pattern for this. I am flying by the seat of my pants and hoping that it is decent and okay. I believe I am doing this right. I do, from what I have heard when I've watched her, Andrea Mowry's podcast, which is I'll Knit If I Want To, whenever she talks about brioche, she always mentions that usually you have to size down your needles because these stitches are looser because it's just so thick and squishy, I think, which I didn't do. So I grabbed a stitch count for a hat pattern that also uses worsted weight yarn, and I cast on the amount of stitches that pattern called for an infant sized hat, which I think was like 56 stitches or something along those lines. And this hat is definitely, I know I'm only about 1.5 inches in, but it's definitely gonna be too big for an infant. It actually probably would fit my own head. And I did actually do that on purpose because I figured I could use yarn and a needle size that I'm familiar with while learning this stitch. And if it is going to be bigger than an infant, then it probably would fit my kindergartner and it would all work out. So here I am, and I am attempting to make it. It's fascinating to see it on, this is the inside, so the wrong side, working side, and this is the outside, the right side of the work. It's just cool. I don't know. I've never done this before. I did what is called honeycomb brioche when I made the Mama cardigan by Pip and Pin. So I guess I've done something similar, but I've never done 2-color brioche before. And I'm very excited. And it's a lot easier and a lot less intimidating than I was making it out to be whenever I thought about trying brioche. So if you've ever wondered about it and been curious about it, I would definitely encourage you to give it a try. It is not as hard. Watch some tutorials, but it is not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So if you've been curious, like, go for it. This is great. And it's so squishy. Definitely worth it. Lastly, I just wanted to show you something that my mom actually got for me for my birthday, which was this past October. She got me this book by Claire Parks, The Knitter's Book of Socks. I have been on a slight sock hiatus since, not last year. No, maybe it was last year. I tried to do the whole box of socks, knit 12 pairs of socks in a year. I came very close, but it kind of like socked me out as far as really cranking out socks like crazy. However, I still love making socks. They are probably one of my favorite things to make because it's almost like having a little sampler. Like you can practice and learn new stitches and new patterns all in a very small little project, which is kind of nice and convenient. So she got me this book for my birthday, and I'm really excited. There's so much in here, just in general about different techniques as far as heels and toes and cuffs, and then just different patterns. I just thought that was cool. Thanks for hanging out with me again. If you want to follow along where I post a little bit more frequently, you can find me on Instagram at a.rambling.yarn. Still sporadic, but more consistent. It was great to have you. I hope you got some work done or were at least able to just sit and relax for the last half hour or so. Until next time, I hope that you enjoy your winter. We'll see you later. Bye.